Immigration has been one of the doorstep issues of the campaign. Which of these four politicians do you trust to get it right? Welcome to the Daily Politics Election Debate. I'm Andrew Neil. There are few issues that resonate with voters as much as immigration. And today we'll be debating which party has the best policies on this hot-button issue live. Nigel Farage is from the UK Independence Party. Damien Green is the Conservative Shadow Immigration Minister. Phil Willis is the Labour Immigration Minister. Tom Brake is the Lib Dem Home Affairs spokesman. Plus, I'm joined again by the BBC's home editor, Mark Easton, to make sure there's some light as well as heat in this debate. Now, in a moment, our politicians will be setting out why they believe they have the best approach to immigration. But first, here's a reminder of what's at stake. In 2008, the most recent year for which figures are available, 590,000 immigrants came to the UK, the second highest annual figure ever. When emigration is taken into account, net immigration was 163,000, more than 3 times what it was in 1997. With the increase in immigration resulting from the 8 East European countries joining the EU in 2004, there now is no community in the land that has not been touched by immigration, making it a truly nationwide issue. And the recession has also fueled tensions. Last February saw protests at oil refineries and power stations across the country over the issue of foreign workers, a concern Gordon Brown had previously acknowledged by controversially promising British jobs for British workers. So where should the parties go from here? Should there be a cap introduced on immigration from outside the EU? Or will that hinder British business by restricting labour supply? And what of Labour's much-vaunted points-based system introduced in 2008? How will sectors such as the NHS and social care cope as the tap of cheap foreign labour is turned off? And with some communities increasingly divided, and with the growth of extremist parties such as the BNP, what will the parties do to increase cohesion? In the next 45 minutes, you decide which party has the best immigration policies. Well, just before we came on air, our politicians drew lots to decide the order in which they would make their pitches to you in 45 seconds. Nigel Farage came first. Nigel Farage, please take your position.
The three old parties will tell you in a moment how they can control the damaging level of mass immigration into this country. Don't believe a word of it. They are all signed up to the EU agenda, which means we have a total open door to tens of millions of very poor people from Eastern Europe. Worse still, they all want Turkey to join, which would mean another 75 million poor people with the ability to come here. In UKIP, we have opposed all of this from the start, believing it to be totally irresponsible. We don't want a population headed towards 70 million. We feel it's time we started putting our own people first. We believe that the only people who should decide who comes to live, work and settle in our country should be the British people themselves through their own parliament, and that means we must have a referendum on our membership of the European Union.
Please now let us have our next speaker, Damien Green.
We all know immigration is a huge issue. That's because it's been out of control under this Labour government, putting pressure on housing, schools and the health service. Net immigration, that's after counting all those who've left the country, has been running as high as 200,000 a year. We want to bring that down to tens of thousands a year, where we can cope much more easily with it. We also want to cope with illegal immigration, not with the asylum, with the amnesty that the Liberal Democrats would introduce, but by introducing a specialist border police. So we'd have a range of measures. We would have an explicit annual limit on the number of people given work visas. We'd also tackle the chaos in the student visa system. That would bring immigration back down to the levels where the British people can feel comfortable with it. Only we will bring that sort of control. Thank you.
Let's hear from the Minister, Phil Willis.
Well, thank you, Andrew. This government is the first to have a managed migration system, and it's working. Immigration, we believe, can be good for Britain, but unmanaged, it's bad for communities and it's bad for services. And that's why we've put into place the points-based system. Visa controls overseas have been sorted, millions refused at source. We've introduced border controls and now count people in and count people out. And we are deporting people and turning them back in record numbers. On asylum, we're at a 20-year low because of the measures. On Europe, we think there is a mutual benefit. But we do believe an amnesty for illegals would be disastrous. And the crude cap would damage our recovery. Our manifesto also breaks the link between temporary stay and permanent settlement and saves billions, therefore, on welfare benefits.
Thank you. Let's hear now from the Liberal Democrats, Tom Brake.
Liberal Democrat immigration policy would be firm but fair. Firstly, that means securing our borders, which have been too porous for too long. We would immediately reintroduce exit checks that the Tories and Labour got rid of. We would carry out proper checks on employers, and we'd have the police incorporated into a UK border force. Secondly, we would encourage new migrants to move where they are most needed. We would seek to trial this in Scotland and make it more difficult to get a permit in areas which are already overcrowded and public services overstretched. Finally, we would introduce a one-off earned route to citizenship for people who have been here for 10 years, speak English and have no criminal record. We want to get these people paying taxes and contributing to the public services they are already using.
Tom Brake, thank you for that. Tell our viewers, how prominently in your election literature are you informing voters that you are in favour of an amnesty for illegal immigrants?
Well, clearly, immigration and this issue of an earned route to citizenship is one that has come up repeatedly in debate and on the doorstep.
How prominent is it in your manifesto and election literature?
I think, as this debate shows, there's no need particularly for it to be prominent. It is something that is much debated and which we welcome the opportunity to describe and to explain.
Is the word amnesty in your manifesto?
We are not calling for an amnesty. We are calling for an earned route to citizenship. That means certain strict conditions would apply.
Rightfully should talk about this, and that's why I'm pleased that you're doing this programme, and it is, after all, an election issue.
Nigel Farage?
The reason it's so important is people care about it and talk about it, but get roundly abused for doing so. We saw the Prime Minister's comments about the lady in Rochdale. We've had David Cameron denounce us as being closet racists for trying to discuss the issue. It matters because since 1997, every single city and market town in this country has been fundamentally changed by the largest inflow of migrants we've seen in British history, and there's a feeling amongst ordinary folk that it's out of control and that these parties are not offering a proper solution.
Is UKIP, Nigel Farage, closet racist, Damien Green?
I'm not sure whether Nigel is. I've heard UKIP people say things that are pretty unpleasant. And I think the
Tory
the
ones
issue,
do that too, don't they?
The issue of whether...
So is he or isn't he a closet
UKIP a racist party?
I don't know. UKIP, what was David Cameron's face? Fruitcakes?
And closet racist.
And closet racist.
Just like the lady in Rochdale, being denounced for standing up and saying this issue matters.
No, I'm being denounced for the attitudes you have.
We are managing migration through the points-based system. The net figures, as you've reported, are coming down, and I think the Polish people and others who came here because there was a strong economy, and there was some benefit to us in this country for that.
But Mrs. Duffy's point was that it was people from Eastern Europe that are coming. There is nothing you can do to stop unlimited numbers coming from those countries, is there?
Well, there is a mutual benefit, I think.
That's not the point. You cannot stop it, can you?
Nigel, can I answer the question? There is a mutual benefit. There are an estimated 2 million plus British people living and working within the European Union. And well, you laugh at that, Nigel. Are you going to bring everybody home from Spain?
There are 287,000 British people working in the European Union. That's the Eurostat figure. And there are 1.6 million EU nationals working in Britain. That is hardly a balance and hardly mutual benefit. They're Eurostat's figures, the European Commission's figures.
Well, I thought you wouldn't trust Eurostat figures. I dispute your figures, but are you seriously standing before this electorate and saying that if you work as a builder in Germany or as a technician in Paris, that you have to come home? Are you saying that?
I'm saying let's have a work permit system.
Is that a yes or a no?
I'm saying we have to have a work permit system.
But isn't the great failure of your government that we had this extraordinary influx of people over the last 10, 30 years, and you didn't plan for it, which is why there was so much pressure on public services?
With respect, Mark, you talk about immigration as if it started on May the 2nd, 1997.
If you look at the figures, it shoots up just after you came to power.
If I can make my point, on the Daily Politics show, a few weeks ago, it showed that it shot up on a session. It didn't shoot up in 1997. In fact, the big increase came in 2003.
One in 98.
On a session...
Mr Willis, there were two significant rises. One in 1998, which it levelled off, and then there was a separate one, again, when you failed to prepare properly for the accession countries.
And that was the accession figures.
But I'm not arguing about that.
The accession figures where Phil had planned for 50,000 people to arrive in the UK over 4 years, and in fact there were 750,000.
Mark's question was, did you intend that to happen, or did it happen by accident?
We say that the benefit of immigration to our economy is clear for all to see. We also say, and any government would have to say this, Andrew, that you must manage migration. And I think that the points-based system and the raft of measures that we've introduced, to be fair, broadly with support from the other parties, is managing migration so this country can get the benefits of it.
You haven't managed it. You lost control over it.
And get control of the
You lost control of it.
Well, I'm saying that the figures have come down.